Welcome to a Millennial's Guide to Real Estate Investing. Here is your host, Antoine Martel.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about local lenders versus national banks, and then I'll talk a little bit about hard money. So again, these are all just from my personal experience. I do help a lot of my clients and new investors get financing for their turnkey rental properties or rehab projects or construction loans. So I have done all of these things personally, and I've helped a lot of people do them the same as me, and therefore that's why I feel like my information is coming from a valid source. And I've been in the business for 4 years now, and I've been doing these different kinds of loans. And especially for me, with very little W-2 income, I have reached out and talked to a lot of people in different spaces. So not only national lenders, but also local lenders, and especially many different types of local lenders, commercial banks, people who give construction loans, etc. So first, I'll start with national banks and what they're great for. So national banks are great for buying turnkey rental properties. And the reason why is they don't touch anything that needs rehab or is not in livable condition. These national banks, are banks like Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, Bank of the West, etc. Banks that you maybe have a credit card or a debit card with, or where you store your money, a bank that you would use. And the reason why they don't do loans on rehab projects or anything like that is because, again, these are national banks. So they typically lend for investment properties or, give mortgages in all 50 states. And there's no way that they could figure out all the different neighborhoods and cities and know a ton about them. So really they focus on stuff that's already been completed so that they can do appraisals, verify the value, and then they just look at your income and see if you can support that mortgage on your debt to income ratio. And that's how they come up with the mortgage for you and see if you're approved or not. So again, these national banks are great for just buying turnkey rental properties, not much else. And they're great when you do have a W-2 income. If you don't have a W-2 income or a solid W-2 income job over the last 2 years, then you're going to have to look at some different options because national banks are not going to work for you. The other benefit that I think is important with using these national banks is that it allows you to buy and diversify your rental property portfolio into multiple different states because they are national banks. So, for example, you use Wells Fargo, you get a mortgage in Tennessee. Okay, 2 months later, you want to diversify and buy a house or a duplex in Cleveland. Okay, you can still use that Wells Fargo bank. You just need to provide them the last 2 months of your bank account and just a little bit of information, but they already have your whole property, your whole personal record, right? You don't have to send them all your W-2s again and all that kind of stuff. They already have that. So that's what's great about using these national banks is you can, buy a rental property in all 50 states and use that same lender. So that's really what I do like about them. And I do recommend many of my clients to national banks for that reason. Many of my investors and clients like to buy properties in all 50 states and not in all 50 states, in different states, and they like to diversify their portfolio, of course, as everybody does. The other benefit of using them is they do provide the best terms that I've seen most of the time for these turnkey rental properties. Many of these banks don't have loan minimums. They charge very low amount of fees. And then again, they will just kind of look and see if your W-2 income supports that mortgage, and that's how you're approved. It's nothing much about the property or the cash flow of the property. But that does kind of make it a pain in the ass when you are getting finance with a national bank, is that they do a ton of research about you, maybe to a point where it becomes annoying. They're going to ask you everything, all the dirt under your fingernails, everything you've done the last 2 years, ask you why you have these certain large deposits. They're going to ask you a ton of different questions like that. And it is a pain in the ass, but for that 5 to 6% interest rate on a 30-year amortization, I mean, there's nowhere else that you can get that. I've talked to many hard money lenders, local lenders, and nobody that I've seen is offering exactly what those national banks are offering, again, with very low amount of fees. So they're a great solution for the turnkey rental properties. if you have a W-2 income, a solid job over the last 2 years, they're a great resource to use, especially for financing those turnkey rental properties. Now, step two, the second group that I'd like to talk about is local lenders. So local lenders can be small commercial banks like Bank of Memphis, Bank of Bartlett, Cleveland Bank, etc. There's going to be many of these little banks in the cities that you guys are investing as well. And they're great for rehab projects and construction loans. The reason why is these guys are local. They can actually go to the job site. They can go visit the property. They have post-renovation appraisals or appraisers who go out to the property and say, okay, here's this house. It's dilapidated. If we do this to it, what is the value going to be? And those local lenders will do stuff like that. The national banks won't even touch it. They're not going to touch anything that needs a rehab to it. So these local lenders are great for those rehab projects, construction loans. They also help with maybe portfolio loans for rental properties, but typically they want to do more than one, maybe like 2 or 3 of them at a time, just because they do have certain amount of fees that those national banks don't have. So with those local lenders, you are going to have some fees. They're going to be a little bit more expensive and a little bit more strict about the property, but not so strict about you and your W-2 income. So, for example, I don't have much W-2 income because I run everything through my company. So when I went to a local lender, it was very easy for me to get approved because the property was cash flowing. I just showed them the financial statement for the property, and that was it. They didn't care that I didn't make any money in my W-2 income over the last 2 years. Again, it was all about the property and how much cash that property was producing and the debt to income ratio. So when I say that debt to income ratio, the banks pretty much want to verify that the income that the property produces is going to cover the debt service. And typically they want a rate of 1.2 to 1.5. So they want the income to pay the debt plus 20% or plus 50%, if that makes sense. So 1.5 times the debt is what they want the income to be. And that's typically how they'll approve those loans for you. So yeah, local lenders, great for rehab projects and construction loans. It's also important if you're investing in a city where you live in to make a connection with those people at the bank. Trust me, it goes a long way. You can get stuff done that you never think would be possible. You can get rates that maybe you've never seen before if you build that relationship with those people, and maybe open a bank account with them, put in some money into a savings account with them so that they can use it. Trust me, they see that and they know that it's you, and they're going to help you as much as they can to get loans out to you because of that. So the third and final group I want to talk about is hard money. Many new investors, millennial investors, go and look for hard money. And hard money is great for rehab projects. They're great for construction loans. They do some turnkey rental property financing as well. Personally, I've never really used hard money. I've never been a fan of hard money. And the reason why is just it's so expensive. Hard money lenders charge 3 points. They're going to charge 12% interest rate. I think that if you're a millennial and you can create an account on biggerpockets.com, go and network with a bunch of people and see if you can raise money from private money lenders or just people in general and have them pay you 10 to 12% and with no points and just use their money for your rehab projects. Hard money lenders are also going to do a ton of due diligence on you and the project, especially if you're doing a construction loan. They're going to be very diligent, especially some of the national hard money guys. Very diligent about your draws, about sending photos for verification, about doing all these kinds of things to verify that a draw should be paid out to a contractor. And that's, again, because these hard money lenders are national guys and they're not local, right? So if you have a local construction loan, the guy from the bank is going to walk over to the property and make sure that the stuff was done and pay you your draw for the construction. But if you're using a hard money lender who's a national lender, then they're not going to be able to, verify that information. So you're part of the verification process, and it becomes an extreme headache, especially after paying 3 points and 12% interest rate. And what I mean by points, so let's say you have a construction loan or a loan from a hard money guy for $100,000, and there's 3 points on that loan. So you would have to pay $3,000 up front just to get that loan. And typically for reference, national banks, when you're doing like a turnkey rental property purchase, it's typically 1 point or just a 1% for fees. So you're getting a $100,000 loan, it's $1,000 to get a loan with a national bank, and with these hard money guys, it's 3 times that. So these hard money people want to know a ton about you and a ton about the project. They want to make sure that if the project goes south, that you'll be able to cover that debt payment. So they do look at your debt to income ratio as well. And again, terrible terms. That's why I've never really used hard money in the past. I've always found that networking with people locally, networking with other investors who are just getting started and maybe have some money in the bank account are the best people to find to fund your projects. And the way that typically I was funding my deals in the beginning was, let's say a project was $50,000, so $30,000 purchase price, $20,000 rehab. I would bring an investor on, and let's say our plan was to sell it for $60,000, right? So $10,000 in profit. I would bring an investor on. I would have them fund 90% of the deal. I would put in a little bit of money myself, and we would split the profits 50-50. So I would kind of do all the work because I was young. I didn't have any money, but I had the knowledge and the teams on the ground. So I would use their money. I would put in a little bit of my own. I would run the whole project, and then we would split the profits 50-50. And yeah, in the end, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than those hard money guys, but I save the headache. I don't have to do all the verification and do all this kind of crap to prove the hard money people that I'm going to pay them. The joint venture or the equity guy that I'm going to bring in with cash is not going to ask me for any of those things. He's just going to want to know numbers about the project, right? And you build that rapport with that person, and they're going to trust you. So that's what I would recommend. Going out and finding these JV equity guys. You can find them on Bigger Pockets. Go to all the networking events you can in your local area. Just network with people who maybe have a little bit of cash and want to invest it and don't have the time. And those are where your gold mines are. Many people also have 401k money. 401k money is a great resource. You can use that. If you have any questions about how to use 401k money, you can reach out to me. You can also find a bunch of that information online, but if you need any help with that, please feel free to reach out to me. Would love to help you guys. So I hope that was informative. I just wanted to talk a little bit about those 3 resources of money. And again, I would recommend national banks for turnkey rental property purchases. Local lenders are great for rehab projects and construction loans. Hard money, I would ignore in general. I would go and spend a little time, maybe a month of hard work networking on Bigger Pockets and at networking events, and skip the hard money route. Go and build a relationship with other investors. It's going to pay dividends in the future if you can have one successful investor, be a piece of marketing material for you, walking around telling everybody about how great the project you just did was and how much money you made them. So I would skip hard money, go and network your ass off. Bigger Pockets, networking events. If there's no networking events in your area, start one. You can start one on meetup.com. That's another great resource. So I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any more questions for me, you can find me on Instagram is probably the best place. My username is Martel Antoine. You can go to my website, martelturnkey.com. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, all Martel Antoine. Thanks for listening, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to me, DM me, whatever you like. Thanks for listening.